Suzanne Warren is a fictional character in the TV show Orange is the New Black, also known by the nickname Crazy Eyes. She was introduced in season 1 as an inmate at Litchfield Penitentiary. However, at some point she decided to branch out from being a criminal and went to making music under the name Kodak Black. From 2013 to 2016, Kodak Black has released 4 mixtapes, and for this video, I took the unfortunate decision of listening to tapes from. But is Kodak Black one of the worst rappers in the game? Let's find out.
Little nigga, I got big bank. I was about to eat that pussy, but that shit stink. Girl, I wanna eat your pussy, but I just can't.
And as always, for part 1 we start with our voice and delivery. So surprise surprise, Kodak is a mumble rapper. Although I'm pretty sure he kind of forces the mumbling occasionally, as on some tracks, such as on the song Can I, he's actually like fairly easier to understand. I feel like the mumble style is just forced at some points. But if you've only heard of him from his XXL freestyle, you'll know that he mumbles fairly heavily on a bunch of tracks. He's not impossible to understand like Desiigner, but it's to the point that it is fairly annoying. As for his voice, it is a very weird voice, but if I'm being upfront, it annoys me the majority of the time. He has a really kind of like, the best way to describe it is a babyish, higher pitched voice with a heavy slurred sound to it. And this might sound harsh and like I'm exaggerating, but I'm being honest when I say he genuinely sounds handicapped sometimes. It kind of ruins the vibes of his songs. For example, listen to one of his more kind of happy fuck around tracks called Today, and tell me his voice doesn't just completely ruin the vibe of the track.
Fuck it. Sorry, I don't wanna sound offensive.
His voice honestly grates on my ears, and it's one of the weakest parts of his music. He also fairly often tries to harmonize his lyrics in a way and layer his raps with more than one vocal track, and in a competent artist this would work, but not even that can save Kodak's voice. I'm gonna have to give Kodak a 1.5 out of 10 for this segment. I kinda feel like Kodak's voice is in general hard to listen to, and it only works for me very, very occasionally. Comparing him to other rappers on here, I'd honestly rather hear Desiigner's voice, or even Lil Uzi's voice, over this. And for part 2, we'll be looking at Kodak's flow. Now Kodak's flow is quite strange to me, not in the way that it's unique or anything, it's just that it works sometimes on his songs, but a lot of the time he doesn't even try to adapt his flow to the beat. He just kind of continuously raps when it would sound better if he broke his flow up or took a breath in certain places. He also doesn't switch up his flows often at all, usually sticking with the exact same flow for a whole verse, or even a whole song, and that's really not a good thing. For example, on the song Shake Back, I swear his flow does not switch up once in the whole song. I only played you like 10 seconds of audio there, but trust me when I say, his flow does not vary the whole song. I already know a rapper is gonna get a low score here when they don't even do something as basic as switching your flow every 8 bars at the very least. It was difficult for me to find a good song with a good flow over 3 whole mixtapes that I listened to of Kodak's, and honestly that's almost an achievement. The fact that a rapper can fail this much in one of the vital aspects of rap is amazing. I think his flow is decent, I guess, on the song Heart of the Projects. It's nothing amazing, but it honestly stood out amongst all these no-flow tracks. I think his flow was a bit better on his earlier mixtape, which was called Heart of the Projects, but I just think that he releases music so frequently that he doesn't even try to like necessarily craft his flows like most rappers would do. He just kind of throws words over a beat and sees if it sticks. He never really varies his flows, as I said, and when he does, they are nothing special, so I'm gonna give Kodak a 2 out of 10 here. What a great fucking start we are off to. Now part 3, we're gonna be looking at his lyric. Now, earlier on I said that Kodak's voice was one of the weakest parts of his music, but this right here is no doubt the weakest part by far. I could easily do a 10 worst lyrics video on Kodak alone, and there would be tons of lyrics left to make a couple more. All I can do is show you some examples here. Let's start with this genius lyric from IMY, which stands for I Miss You.
You my favorite alphabet, they just wanna be, I remember.
Wow, you see that amazing wordplay? It doesn't fucking work, because you and B P are the only letters he mentions in that line. That's a pretty shitty alphabet if it only has 2 letters. I know I always correct lyrics here and say how they would work better, but saying "you my favorite letters" would make sense. I mean, it's still less than average wordplay, but it makes sense. Saying alphabet just doesn't work out if you're only going to mention 2 whole letters out of it. Then there's this metaphor on the song 30 that just doesn't sound right.
Baby girl, I got 3 dicks. 1800. Fuck with me, I got 3 dicks.
Trust me, the explanation for this one is even worse than the lyric itself. According to Rap Genius, of the 3 dicks he refers to, one of them is his own dick, and the other 2 refer to guns. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I've never heard anyone refer to guns as dicks, and it does sound pretty stupid. Imagine if a gangster walked up to you, right, he had his guns in hand, and then he said to you, "Oh, I'm about to blow you away with these 2 dicks in my hand." I'm sure the last thing you would be is intimidated. I won't play any other examples because I could make a whole video on that, and I probably will at some point. And I think I've shown enough to prove my point that Kodak is fairly lyrically inept. Also, you may be saying, but you didn't play any good examples of when he was good lyrically. That's because they don't exist. When Kodak isn't spitting bad lyrics, he's pretty much saying everything you've heard before. Now, in my 21 Savage Worst Rappers in the Game episode, I give Savage a 2 out of 10 for his lyrics, but he actually had some very, very occasional wordplay that was okay. Kodak has none of that, so I can't give him anything else above a 1 out of 10 here, lyrically. If his lyrics were just about standard rap shit, then Kodak would actually score higher. He's one of the few exceptions who would actually be lyrically better if they didn't try to use metaphors. And part 4 we're going to be looking at is beat selection. Now this right here, this was the part that surprised me the most about Kodak's music. I expected him to have pretty good production, but holy fuck, his production is absolutely outstanding. Honestly, it makes me want to like his music. It is without a doubt the reason why his music was even slightly listenable, but fucking hell, he has some great producers working on his beats. Listen to the beat for Everything 1K, it has so many layers, and of course my favorite instrument in a beat, the piano hits.
This fall, the soldiers fell victim to the system. Every day that go by, they so close to losing faith. I gotta thank God for everything, it's a miracle.
That was honestly really high quality production, and it's amazing how someone would make that beat just to give it to fucking Kodak. I also love the beat for Big Bang. The hook is, again, ruined by Kodak, and I'm not just hating on him, I genuinely think it was. But those synth sounds in the background are so catchy, and that melody has just been stuck in my head all day. And then of course, there is the beat for Skirt. How do you say that, like, without sounding like a white boy? Skirt, which is just dope as fuck. It's such a classy beat that would be better with a classier kind of old school rapper over it. If I had one complaint about his production, it would be in that on his earliest project, Heart of the Projects, the beats weren't nearly as good and high quality as they are nowadays, but that's understandable. I think honestly Kodak has some of the best production that we have looked at in this series so far, so he'll get a 9 out of 10 for his beat selection. That is probably the highest score I've ever given in this series for anything before. It's a shame that these beats had to go to such a lackluster rapper, and it's also not great that the best part of his music involves the least input from Kodak himself. And for our final part here, we're going to be looking at my overall enjoyment of Kodak Black's music. So in preparation for this video, I listened to 3 full Kodak Black mixtapes, and oh boy, it was so fun as you can imagine. I don't really know what I can say for this part because I pretty much feel the same way about every single one of his projects. The 3 I listened to were Heart of the Projects, Institution, and Lil Big Pac, which has some of the worst cover art I've seen in my life, and I honestly just think it is, in all honesty, disrespectful to Biggie. If I really had to rate them, I think it'd go Lil Big Pac, Heart of the Projects, then Institution. So let's talk about Lil Big Pac first. It has the best production by a long shot, so obviously it would be my favorite, and I say favorite in a very relative sense, as I like none of these. However, I absolutely love the song here called Too Many Years. It's probably my favorite song ever released by Kodak, but that's mainly for P&B Rock's part. And I do quite like the innocence of the track that comes later on in the album called Letter. That one sounds decent. Apart from that, it's all production that makes me like it. As for Institution, it was much of the same, just with way too many tracks, so barely any of them stood out to me. It honestly wasn't that memorable to me at all, hence why it's my least favorite. Heart of the Projects was my second favorite, and it wasn't really good either, but some of the songs were decent. As I said, I loved the beat for Skirt, and Molly sounded decent, but yet again, nothing entertained me much at all. One of the things I noticed a lot on these mixtapes is that on so many Kodak songs, it actually sounds like it's going to be really deep and personal at the beginning from the beats and the title of the song. But then he starts rapping and it just kills any emotional value the song could have. It's almost as if he's trying to fake a deep sound on his music. Again, if we compare this to my other enjoyment ratings, I gave 21 Savage a 1 out of 10 for enjoyment, but that is because I legitimately fell asleep towards the end of one of Savage's projects. Kodak's music doesn't bore me as much as that, but what it did do was annoy and irritate me. So for that reason, Kodak just does very slightly better, and I'll give him a 1.5 out of 10 for how much I enjoyed his music.
So overall here for a numerical score, Kodak gets a grand total of 15 out of 50. Now, this is actually the lowest score we've ever had in this series so far, and I think this really reflects my opinion. I had a hard time making it all the way through Kodak's music, and if there is one thing that is worse than being boring, it is being unbearable to listen to. So that is why Kodak Black takes the spot as our new worst rapper in the game. He is at the bottom of the 7 rappers that I have looked at so far. Now guys, I've kind of ran out of space when I was making the ranking list, which I used to put up as a graphic on the screen. So what I'm going to do is just show you a very simplified list that has the best rapper so far that we've looked at and the worst rapper. And then if you want to see the full list, it'll be down in the description below, and I'll also make a Rate Your Music page with all my worst rappers in the game rankings on there. So you can check it out in the description, or if you prefer visuals and pictures, you can look at the Rate Your Music page. I can only hope that I'll get the chance to look at some good rappers again soon, because I really want some people that can compete with Rae Sremmurd for that #1 spot so far. They're still the best that we've looked at, and hopefully someone can come and beat that. But as of now, they will stay there. And I honestly think it is going to be hard for someone to be worse than Kodak. Well guys, got a new backdrop again. I'm kind of experimenting. This one is a bit plain, but I'm thinking it could look good if I get some sort of poster here and just kind of start to get posters all around the room. Because I do have an Eminem one over there, but I don't want to move it off of where it is just now. So if I got a bunch of posters and put them here, I think that'd be good. The echo might be a bit too much, which is something that I'll have to think about because this is quite a large room. But anyway guys, if you have any suggestions for videos you want me to do, let me know in the description below. It could be worst rappers in the game, 10 fastest verses, top 10 lists you want me to do, and just know that I'm working through all your requests as we speak. This video was actually requested, so shout out to everyone who asked me to do this. I'd really appreciate it if you could follow me on Twitter. The link is at CDTVProductions, and we've got quite a lot of followers over there, so it'd be great to get even more. I can interact with you guys a lot more on there. Also, if you want to support me on Patreon, go to www.patreon.com/CDTVProductions, and the link is also in the description below. Well, I think that's all I've got to say. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is CDTV Productions, signing out.